Hello again. I thought that viewers might like to know about a method used by Muslims to evade the stamp duty that the rest of us have to pay when we're buying a house. As most people know, if you buy a house costing more than £250,000, you have to pay 5% of the value to the government as stamp duty land tax. This is a racket worked by the government to raise money which is impossible to evade for most of us. Unless you are a Muslim, that is, in which case you don't need to pay stamp duty, no matter how much the property costs. I realise that this will sound quite unbelievable, so let me explain what is going on. Muslims are forbidden by their religion from financial dealings which involve paying interest on loans. As a matter of fact, so are Christians and Jews. The Bible is quite explicit about this, both in the Old and New Testament, and that's by the by. Muslims use various methods of financial dealing to avoid transactions which entail interest. I happen to be mixed up in such an arrangement myself, since I send money to Gaza each month, and this is not done through a bank, but rather the mechanism of hawala. But this too is, I fear, going off at a tangent. In 2005, Tony Blair's government changed the law so that followers of Islam could buy property without paying stamp duty. Muslims were allowed to buy a house and then sell it on to an offshore financial company. They then leased the house from the company instead of taking out a mortgage, which would include interest payments. Stamp duty, which is applicable to all properties over a certain level, does not have to be paid on properties which are immediately sold on. This loophole, incidentally, costs the Treasury over £100 million a year. In the description to this video, I give a link to the relevant section of the British government website for the Land Registry. Incredibly, it has a large part devoted to an explanation of Muslim theology and how this affects the purchase of property. It begins like this. The theological basis for Islamic finance stems partly from the traditional prohibition of usury or interest, which means that interest-based selling may not appeal to followers of Islam. I need hardly say that no other religion has its own dedicated section on the Land Registry's website. Just to make it clear, I give another link to a different part of the government's website which deals with exemptions from stamp tax. It says plainly, and I quote, "You do not have to pay stamp duty, land tax or file a return if you use alternative property financial arrangements, for example, to comply with Sharia law." So there it is. Muslims are able to dodge stamp duty which the rest of us have to pay, and this is perfectly legal and specifically allowed in British law. And it is an absolute scandal.